I was looking at a commentary that Lisa Cabrera did concerning this topic that I'm bringing to you, and I said I just have to speak on it. Now, I have said in my commentaries in the past about the state of Virginia. Virginia, especially in that lower part of Virginia, like from like Fredericksburg on down, is racist as hell in VA. It might be some racism going on in the northern part of VA, which is closer to DC, but that lower part for sure is definitely racist as hell. Like Richmond, Fredericksburg, and going more further south, like going towards North Carolina. Virginia is one of the, if not the most racist state in the establishment. And when I tell you that, please believe me, because I'm not making this up. Take it from somebody who has traveled through VA many a times in their life. Now you're looking at this picture, and on the left, y'all should be very familiar with that person. That's Ralph Northam. And to our right, which would be his left, is his wife, Pam Northam. Now we already know what's going on with Ralph Northam, or at least we did until the media decided to try to bury it. This might actually bring it out of hiding. But Pam Northam decided that it would be a good idea. Well, first off, there was a group of kids who decided that, they were going to go and do a tour of the executive mansion slave quarters. I guess it was a part of a Black History program and whatnot. And she took it upon herself and decided that it would be a good idea to hand out cotton to the Black students. She thought that would be a damn good idea. Now, the media is probably looking at her and mad as hell right now. Why do I say that? Because they probably did their best to try to bury whatever was going on with Ralph Northam. But this is just going to bring it back into emergence with the stunt she just pulled. Imagine that. Two races from different walks of life came together in a matrimony made in hell in order to do the shit that they have done. She knows what she did was some ignorant shit. She's probably going to claim she didn't know and that it was, that she's sorry and all of that. Apology not accepted. I'm just saying it right now because I know it's coming. I know that apology is coming. But let me go ahead and read this article. Virginia First Lady Pam Northam is facing criticism from the daughter of a state employee who says Northam tried to hand her and a fellow African-American page a piece of cotton and asked them to imagine being an enslaved person. So she knows exactly what that means. So she can't use the excuse that she doesn't know what's going on. She knows what the hell is going on. The 8th grade student detailed the incident in a letter Monday to lawmakers, describing it as beyond inappropriate, especially considering recent events involving Governor Ralph Northam. It was very testing to know I had to go somewhere and had no choice as to if I went, I had to be respectful and to be on my best behavior. Even when the people in positions of power I was around were not doing the same. Now I'm going to echo something Lisa said. This is an 8th grader saying this. This is an 8th grader that knows. And they think they're dumb. See, the people like Pam and Ralph Northam and things like that be thinking that black people are stupid no matter what the age. But this is an 8th grader telling her about herself. Or should I say, telling people like her about herself. The girl was among state Virginia Senate pages who toured the mansion on February 21st. Pam Northam said in a statement, "I regret that I upset anyone." There it is. And it wasn't even an apology, but I wasn't expecting her to give an apology anyway. So I actually respect her honesty in that aspect, because if she had apologized, I already knew she was lying. The student's mother, Leah Dozier Walker, who oversees the Office of Equity and Community Engagement in the State Department of Education, also wrote to lawmakers saying that the incident runs against the governor and First Lady's request for forgiveness over racially insensitive past actions. But the actions of Mrs. Northam just last week do not lead me to believe that this governor's office has taken seriously the harm and hurt they have caused African Americans in Virginia, or that they are deserving of our forgiveness. Go with that feeling, because I'm tired of hearing black folks saying that they forgive everybody. And I like how she framed it. That she basically says that that she feels that they are not deserving of their forgiveness. That's right. Forgiveness is earned, not given just because someone said that they regret doing something or they feel bad for doing something. That's not how that works. It says the letter was first reported by the Washington Post. The controversy involving the First Lady comes as the governor. I'm not going to really talk about that because it's going into the part with Ralph Northam and what happened with him. The First Lady says an administration spokeswoman, Ophira Yesgel, said the First Lady has reached out to the Walker family to set up an in-person meeting, but those efforts have yet not been successful. Good. That means they're ignoring her ass. She also pushed back on the claim that Pam Northam singled out African-American students when handing out the cotton. Here comes damage control. The First Lady did not single anyone out. She invited all of the pages to touch agricultural products and artifacts displayed in historic kitchen as a part of an educational tour. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit because she said, here, hold this piece of cotton. Now you know what it's like to be enslaved. Who the hell was she talking to? It wasn't any other people out there in them fields but black folks. See, this is the part right here that just grinds my fucking gears. I hate when my intelligence is insulted. And it's ironic that they picked this person with this foreign sounding name to speak up on her behalf. Someone who most likely damn sure wasn't there with my ancestors in them damn fields. This is the incident in question occurred in the historic kitchen of the Executive Mansion, a cottage that formerly housed the African-American slaves who served Virginia governors. In her statement, Pam Northam said that breaking the tradition, she has added the cottage to her tour of the mansion along with a variety of artifacts and agricultural crops. So in other words, it was never a part of the tour. She added it in. Figures. I believe it does a disservice to Virginians who omit the stories of the enslaved people who lived and worked there. That's why I have been engaged in an effort to thoughtfully and honestly share this important story since I arrived in Richmond. See what I told you, Richmond? When I told you, when you go further South Virginia? The governor's office confirmed that the cottage, along with artifacts like cotton and tobacco, have been a part of the First Lady's effort to incorporate the story of African Americans into the mansion's tour. Senator Bill Stanley of Franklin County said his 13-year-old daughter, also a Senate page, and his wife took the tour during the same week. Stanley's daughter took the page tour with Walker's daughter, who attends at St. Catherine's School. In his daughter's account, Stanley said Mrs. Northam passed out the cotton ball to a page to pass around as a hands-on experience, a technique she uses regularly as a teacher. Now he's getting on code right now for this chick. Every page looked at it, held it, and touched it. How painful it must have been in the context of slavery. Well, it must have been not so painful for you because your ancestors weren't the ones who were out there in that scorching sun cutting their hands on that crop to pick that damn cotton, and they had to pick enough cotton because when they weighed it better have been weighed exactly, otherwise they would have made them pick it out again after they got whipped. Stanley said his daughter acknowledged some pages did not like it. His wife Laura took a similar tour 2 days later after a luncheon for legislative spouses at the Executive Mansion. The speaker for the luncheon was Gail Jessup White, community engagement officer at Monticello, President Thomas Jefferson. Oh God, not that prick. Every time I hear his name, Sally Hemings comes to mind. She's an African-American descendant of Jefferson and Sally Hemings, a slave with whom he fathered several children. My wife said it was very poignant, powerful, and compelling presentation. See, I know what they're doing. They're getting the opinions of all these other people to try to run interference for her, to try to excuse her for what she did. That's what they're doing. Afterward, Mrs. Northam led a tour of the kitchen she's having restored for historical accuracy and context. Once again, she handed out cotton balls, this time to the spouses of legislators, including Stanley's wife. It was to try to make us understand a little bit better, in some small measure, the horrors of slavery. Here is Pam Northam's full statement. As First Lady, I have worked over the course of the last year to begin the full story of the Executive Mansion, which has mainly centered on Virginia's governors. The historic kitchen should be a feature of Executive Mansion tours, and I believe it is a disservice to Virginians to omit the stories of the enslaved people who lived and worked there. That's why I have been engaged in an effort to thoughtfully and honestly share this important story since I arrived in Richmond. I have provided the same educational tour to Executive Mansion and visitors over the last few months and used a variety of artifacts and agricultural crops with the intention of illustrating a painful period in Virginia history. I regret that I have upset anyone. I am still committed to chronicling the important history of the historic kitchen and will continue to engage historians and experts on the best way to do so in the future. Well, has she actually did, I don't know, some extra extensive research and, figure out the damn demographic of who was coming to see that? Maybe, I don't know, she would have been more sensitive to it, but they don't know how to do that. Now, imagine a black lawmaker's spouse came up with something where they were talking about the Holocaust. That's just talking about the Holocaust. Not to the extent of what she did. It probably would have been outrage, and they would have demanded someone who, I don't know, was a Jew to talk about it more so than someone who was not. Thing is, she thought that this was okay. And like I said, they had people to run interference for her. Say, see, when she was handing out that cotton and telling them, imagine what it was like to be an enslaved person. But first off, let me go back on that a little bit. I don't remember her saying, or to anyone else, could you imagine what it was like being an enslaved person? I only hear that coming from that 8th grader. And if that is the case, then yeah, first off, I believe she's racist anyway. If you have to marry someone like Ralph Northam, then yeah, guilt by association. But I didn't hear her say, oh, imagine being an enslaved person to anybody else except for that black 8th grader. And I think it's very interesting that, not to shift gears, that they have become more silent now on her husband. But guess who's still in the news? Justin Fairfax. That is of no surprise. They really want him up out of there. They said that they gave him some papers, or there was supposed to be some papers being delivered this week, not this week, but like a couple weeks ago. But I have yet to hear anything about what went forward with that. But yeah, Pam Northam and her husband are racist. Virginia, as a collective, that state is racist as hell. If you've never been to VA, good. If you have to drive through VA, be cautious. That's all I'm gonna say. I would suggest this. If you don't know what you're doing as far as driving through VA at night, please be careful. Because I remember when I went, if y'all have been on my channel, when I back in 2016, when I reached 1,000 subscribers, I had went down to the insurrection in Hampton, VA for with Nat Turner. And that place is very close to the North Carolina state line. It's about 10 miles away from it. I didn't realize how far into Virginia it was. And then when at the time, when it was in the summertime, so the days are longer. Good thing for GPS, because I could have got turned around out there, and it was before it got dark, and I didn't out in that area. I would not have wanted to get caught out there while it's dark. I wouldn't even wanted to pull over and ask for directions. So for those of you who have to go to VA or have to travel to VA, just be very cautious, especially when you're driving around like in the evening. And that's all I have to say about this. Y'all let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next one.